He almost didn't put it up. Arthur Mills stood in the garage on the 14th of December staring at the box labeled Christmas tree, living room in his wife Margaret's handwriting. She'd labeled everything, always neat black marker, and told himself there was no point. No point setting up a tree for one person. No point stringing lights nobody would see. No point putting out the nativity set Margaret had collected piece by piece over 30 years, adding one figure every Christmas, the final shepherd arriving the December before she passed. No point. He put the tree up anyway. It took him 2 hours. His hands weren't steady like they used to be and the branches needed sorting and he had to sit down twice. But when he finally plugged in the lights and stepped back, something in his chest loosened just slightly. Margaret would have wanted the tree up. Arthur was 78 years old, a retired high school history teacher from Portland, Oregon, and this was his third Christmas alone. He had 2 daughters, Carolyn in Seattle, Beth in Sacramento, and 4 grandchildren he saw approximately twice a year if schedules aligned. He had already received both calls. Carolyn's had come first, apologetic, warm, genuine. Her husband's family was doing a big gathering this year. The kids were so excited, she hoped Dad understood. Arthur said of course. He meant it and he didn't mean it simultaneously. Beth's call came the next day. Her voice was tired before she even started explaining. Flights were expensive. The kids had activities. Maybe they'd do a video call Christmas morning. That sounds wonderful, Arthur said. He hung up and sat very still in his armchair for a long time, then went to the garage and got the Christmas tree. For 31 years Arthur Mills had hosted Christmas, every single one. The house on Birchwood Lane filled wall to wall. Margaret's sisters, Arthur's brother Dale, the neighbors who had nowhere else to go, eventually the grandchildren tumbling through rooms that couldn't quite contain them. Margaret cooked for 3 days beforehand. Arthur's job was the tree, the lights outside, and staying out of the kitchen. He'd excelled at all 3. Christmas morning was the same every year. Early, loud, wrapping paper everywhere. Someone always crying over something in the best possible way. Margaret's cinnamon rolls at 10. The big dinner at 3. Dale falling asleep in the armchair by 4:30, which had been a family joke since 1987. Those Christmases felt inexhaustible, like they would just keep happening, year after year. The people and the noise and the particular smell of Margaret's kitchen on Christmas morning. Dale passed in 2015. Margaret in 2020, December 9th, 2 weeks before Christmas, which Arthur had decided was either the cruelest timing or a mercy, depending on the day. The gatherings got smaller after that, then smaller still. Then this, Arthur alone in a house decorated for a family that had scattered to its own separate lives. The way families do, the way nobody plans but everyone arrives at eventually. He didn't blame his daughters. He'd said that to his doctor once, Dr. Reeves, who had the kind of face that invited confession. I don't blame them. They have their own lives. Dr. Reeves had nodded and then said carefully, "You're allowed to wish things were different and not blame anyone at the same time, Arthur. Those aren't contradictory." Arthur had thought about that for weeks. He thought about it now, adjusting the final shepherd in the nativity set, setting it in its place beside the others. The set was complete. Margaret had finished it. He wished she were here to see it. He made her cinnamon rolls. Not on Christmas morning. He didn't trust himself to get the timing right alone, and the idea of burnt cinnamon rolls at 9 a.m. with no one to laugh about it felt too sad. So he made them Christmas Eve afternoon instead, following Margaret's handwritten recipe card, the one with the flour smudge in the corner that had been there since approximately 1994. They came out slightly uneven, a little darker on one side. He ate 2 standing at the counter and they tasted enough like her that he had to set the third one down. He'd been invited to Christmas Eve service at the church. Pastor Hendricks had called personally, which Arthur appreciated. He went, sat in the third pew where he and Margaret had always sat, sang the hymns in his unreliable baritone, and drove home in the rain. The house was quiet and lit and the tree glowed in the front window. He poured himself 2 fingers of the good bourbon, Dale's brand. He'd kept buying it after Dale died out of habit or loyalty or something he'd never examined too closely, and sat in his armchair. The phone was on the side table. He looked at it the way you look at something you're trying not to look at. Carolyn sometimes called on Christmas Eve. Not always. Maybe tonight. He watched the tree lights for a while. Outside the rain had gotten heavier. Good Oregon Christmas rain, the kind that made the lights outside blur and soften. At 9:30 he turned the television on. Some old film, black and white, the kind Margaret had loved and he pretended to tolerate and secretly enjoyed. At 11 he turned it off. The phone hadn't rung. He wished the tree good night, out loud, alone in his living room, because he was 78 years old and entitled to whatever small comforts he could find, then went to bed. He woke at 6:15. Old habit. 31 years of early Christmas mornings had built it into him permanently. For just a moment, half asleep, he heard the house the way it used to sound. The grandchildren, Margaret downstairs already, the smell of coffee. Then full consciousness arrived and the house was quiet and he was alone and it was Christmas. He made coffee, sat at the kitchen table, opened the window slightly, cold, clean, rain-washed morning air. A cardinal landed on the feeder in the yard, impossibly red against the gray morning. Margaret had always taken that as a good sign. Red bird on Christmas morning, she used to say. Someone who loves you is thinking about you. Arthur watched the cardinal for a long time. At 8:15 Beth called. Video call, her face small on his phone screen, her kids briefly visible and then gone, chasing something in the background. It was warm there, Sacramento Christmas, no rain. Beth looked tired in the way young mothers always look tired. Merry Christmas, Dad. How are you doing? I'm good, sweetheart. Merry Christmas. They talked for 11 minutes. He counted afterward without meaning to. At 10 Carolyn texted, a photo of her living room, grandchildren and wrapping paper and chaos. Merry Christmas, Dad. Thinking of you. 2 exclamation points. A heart emoji. Arthur typed back, Merry Christmas, sweetheart. Looks like a wonderful morning. He set the phone down. The cardinal was gone from the feeder. The coffee had gone cold. He reheated it, took it to the armchair and sat looking at the tree. The lights were steady and warm. The nativity set complete on the mantel. Margaret's final shepherd in his place. Someone who loves you is thinking about you. He held on to that. At noon someone knocked on the door. Arthur wasn't expecting anyone. He set down his book. He'd been rereading something he'd taught for 20 years, finding comfort in the familiar, and went to the door. His neighbor's daughter stood on the porch. Emily, 26, home from graduate school, rain jacket, holding a covered dish with both hands. He'd known her since she was 7 years old. Mom sent this, Emily said. She made way too much and also she said you looked thin the last time she saw you. Arthur looked at the dish, looked at Emily. Your mother has been saying I look thin since 2003, he said. Emily grinned. She's consistent. He let her in. She stayed. That was the thing he hadn't expected. She didn't just drop the dish and leave. She came in and took off her rain jacket and asked if he had tea and sat at the kitchen table like it was the most natural thing. She asked about his career, genuinely the way young people ask when they're actually curious. She was studying education policy and wanted to know what teaching had actually been like, what had changed, what he missed about it. Arthur talked for 40 minutes and didn't notice the time passing. She told him about her thesis, her program, a professor she couldn't stand. He told her about a student he'd had in 1987 who'd sent him a letter last year saying his history class had changed his life. Do you still have the letter? Emily asked. In the desk drawer, Arthur said. I've read it probably 50 times. Emily smiled. That's the whole job right there. Arthur looked at this young woman at his kitchen table on Christmas afternoon and felt something he hadn't felt in weeks. Present, useful, part of something. Tell your mother thank you, he said, and tell her I didn't look thin. I look distinguished. Emily laughed, really laughed. It filled the kitchen beautifully. Carolyn called that evening. Not a text this time, a real call, her voice close and clear. She'd gotten the kids to bed early and found a quiet corner and called her father on Christmas night. "I've been thinking about you all day," she said. "I'm all right," Arthur said. And tonight, more than he'd expected, it was true. He told her about Emily, about the cinnamon rolls, about the cardinal on the feeder in the morning. Carolyn laughed at the cinnamon rolls. She knew that recipe, had grown up eating them, had been trying and failing to replicate them for years. "Did they come out right?" she asked. "One side was darker," Arthur admitted. "Mom's were always perfect. Your mother had 40 years of practice. Give me time." Carolyn was quiet for a moment, the good kind of quiet. "Next Christmas," she said, "we're coming to you, all of us. I don't care about the flights." Arthur looked at the tree, the lights steady and warm, same as they'd been all day, doing their quiet job whether anyone was watching or not. "I'll put the tree up," he said. "I'll bring the kids to help. They'll make a mess of the branches." "Completely," Carolyn said warmly. He sat in his armchair long after they hung up. The house was still quiet. Christmas was almost over. Nothing dramatic had happened. No grand reunion, no tearful arrival at the door. Just a cardinal in the morning, a neighbor's daughter with a covered dish, a phone call that came when he needed it most. Margaret used to say Christmas wasn't about the big moments. It was about showing up for each other in whatever way you could manage. Arthur Mills had shown up for himself this year. He'd put the tree up when there was no reason to. He'd made the cinnamon rolls. He'd kept going. And the people who loved him, imperfectly from a distance in the small ways busy lives allow, had found their way back to him before the night was over. Sometimes that is enough. Sometimes that is everything.